I think the problem that we have, that we're facing, we're well aware, there's only a finite amount of Walking Dead content before they have to call it quits, because there's just too much money being thrown at something that nobody's watching. So the stakes are so much higher to pull it off. I don't want to be the bearer of bad news. It's like watching somebody die of a fatal illness slowly.
We've talked about it for years. There has to be an end eventually.
When The Walking Dead was on, there was a safety net. It's still here. Hearing that The Walking Dead was about to end, the end of the safety net is over here. Now we're without a net because there's no safety net and others are aware of it. I can't even tell you how many people that I talk to that are like, I'll binge Dead City when it's done. Not when the season's done. When the whole thing is done. Same thing with Daryl Dixon. We are Squawking Dead, a podcast pulverizing programs beyond the Walking Dead universe. Sometimes we give you news, sometimes we make you laugh, most times we go deep. I'm your host, David Cameo, and I'm joined by Bridget, aka Punky Brewster, who you can reach on ko-fi.com/Punky Brewster. That's PUNKYBRUISETR. And we're here to talk to you about From's 5th episode of its 3rd season, titled The Light of Day. Everything is better in the light of day. Isn't that the expression? It all looks different in the light of day. Something like that.
Yeah, it'll look different in the light of day.
You get the point. No use arguing over it. We just want to remind you folks that we need more members in order to stay consistent. It would be great for me not to have to pay for things in the future and have this podcast be self-sustaining. I'm okay with paying for stuff, but I enjoy the idea that we were able to self-fund this podcast with your help. And you become part of the action. You join the Discord. You give us ideas. You tell us how we can add more value for you because you took the time out to support this podcast, which we definitely appreciate because we want to keep giving you perks. To that end, I wanted to tell you guys that we had a couple of folks that signed up for memberships, the Whisperers tier. We had a new Survivors tier member, Douglas Atherton. We'll mention him again at the end of the episode in the audio podcast, and he'll show up on the screen along with the 2 new members and some current members. But we could really use more members because we like the idea of financial certainty, and tips are great. It'll get us through the season. But when it comes to editing and trying to do more for you in order to diversify our portfolio, because the Walking Dead universe is great, but it's sparse. The content comes in periodically, 6 episodes at a time, like The Walking Dead Daryl Dixon, Walking Dead Dead City 2 years in a row now, it seems. We want to give you more. We want to talk about more things. We want to do more for you. You can help us with that by making suggestions. When you become a supporter, you'll get to tell us all about that in the Discord. Even if you tip us, you can do that too, by the way. But we need members to be able to keep this thing going. And you know what? You seem to like us. You're here right now. Maybe you're not liking this spiel, hearing us for the first time. That's fine. We just want to let you know where we're at. We're turning the page on 6 years, starting chapter 7, the 7th year. Usually around Halloween time is when I mark the end of our anniversary. So I'd like to keep on going. 7 is the lucky number that tells us that we're going to be launched into the stratosphere. We're going to be here forever. 7 meaning several. We'll say more about that at the end of the episode, and we're going to launch right into a topic of conversation. Julie and Elgin. Let's talk about that piece first.
Sure. I have kind of been waiting for this between the 2 of them because there was a little bit of like a friendship already. And so I was kind of hoping that they were going to lean on each other a little bit more. Now, you know me, I'm okay with people just being friends because that's like a normal thing in real life where people can just be friends and that's it.
You and I are friends. Yeah,
exactly. And don't ship us. That's weird. Anyway.
Why do you do this? Stop putting it in the comments.
Stop it.
It's getting annoying.
Stop.
I don't like it.
This is so stupid.
My wife has had arguments with me. I don't like it at all. Bridget, you're wrecking my marriage.
Yeah, that would be so sad.
Sorry, the comments are wrecking my marriage.
I love Evelyn very much. And so that would make me really sad, actually. It's nice to see kind of a break.
Well, as Julie describes how horrible the screams she's hearing all the time and feeling
awful.
in her body, basically, is what she's saying. Like, even when she's not here, it's so loud, it's not even a sound. It's a feeling that simultaneously they have this moment of levity and laughing and weed. And
Smoking is the only thing that kind of gets her mind off of it. which fine. A little bit shady that you're going to steal it, but it's cool. You're a teenager, so that's like normal teenager shenanigans.
Well, and Fatima can't have it anyway, if you think about it. She has a demon bun.
She does have a demon bun in the oven. If anything, it might calm it down, but I think...
Maybe.
And maybe make her hungry enough to eat normal food instead of rotten food, but who knows?
We just solved it.
I did. That's the problem. Is you stopped smoking the devil's lettuce. Anyway.
Right. Folks, everybody, get on that weed. Let's save America, Bridget. Bridget, why won't you save America with me? Just America, not the world.
Just America.
Smoke weed. Save America.
Smoke weed every day. One, I didn't know that there was more storage in Colony House. So that was like an interesting piece of information to receive. And then I have a question for you, Dave, because when they opened that box, what did you think was going to be in there? In the trunk?
You were thinking Jasper?
Yes.
I had the passing fancy that it would be. It was such a dramatic shot. They held that shot. I felt like
it needed to have more to it. Like there was something I was supposed to be paying attention to. So I'm wondering if that was the intention. This is Jasper, but it's not Jasper.
Well, and they didn't go all the way down to the bottom of the trunk.
True.
So you never know. And the trunk did look similar to the one they found in the cave.
A little bit.
Which is to say, what if the entire... every time I feel it in your body, Bridget... Okay, that sounded weird. But whenever I say what if, I feel like you're about to go, no, don't say anything after what if,
I'm okay
Dave.
with some what ifs, but sometimes you just go so crazy.
With this show, I'll admit, I have to stop saying what if first. And two, the feeling that I'll say what if, probably shouldn't say what's next. Might piss Bridget off, if with good reason, I acknowledge.
I sound like a hypocrite, though, when I say that, because then I'm willing to like spin a yarn about it. But I just want to be within reason. That's all, within reason. Not like these are aliens.
No. Within your reason.
True.
My wild thoughts are great. Yours are terrible.
Yeah. Yeah, Dave.
So I sort of thought the same thing about you, at the very least, again, because I'm trying to be grounded. I had the thought about Jasper being at the bottom of this trunk, but I mostly had this thought like, oh, wait, what should I be paying attention to? Because the shot is deliberately holding on this trunk.
I know.
Same thing with Victor in the suitcase that he showed Sarah. I was like, oh, what is all this? Oh, should I be paying attention?
What's up with all these boxes over and over again?
This show is the worst when it comes to really picking out Easter eggs, because you want to talk so much about what these things could be. But second, in the basement that they were in, I noticed it had a similarity, at least in design, to the dungeon that Boyd was in. Did you get that sense or feeling that maybe they reused the set or something?
Maybe it was, like old masonry work.
Yeah, the old archway brickwork, let's say.
It looked super old, but that's fair because the whole house does. One, Julie's jacket, the coat that she picked out, I really hope that coat lasts this season.
80s jacket?
Yeah, not everybody's has like a coat yet. The costuming is changing. I thought it was cute. Looked like it would be super warm. It's a padded jean jacket. Insulated.
Right, it's a padded acid wash jean jacket.
Yeah. The 80s version of cowboy casual wear that we have now.
Yeah, I agree. Well, and also an oversized coat means you could pad it with whatever sweaters and it won't look
I thought it was
more
cute.
goofy than it already is.
And I enjoyed that they found the camera. Now, I was kind of thinking that the camera is going to end up playing a pretty key piece of like Elgin being able to show people this woman that's asked for his help, or is something going to show up in the photographs?
That's what my first thought was, is that when we see Jade being strangled by that figure in episode 3 with the spike that was previously in his eye and the drinking the blood from the skull, when Dale sees Jade being strangled, it's thin air.
Yeah.
And so I'm wondering, what will the camera capture in reality that the monsters can't produce? What are they really seeing versus what they think they're seeing? I think that might have a bit of a role to play.
I think so too.
They might see cameras in the corner and and stuff like, you know what I mean?
Rachel said she thought of Goosebumps, Say Cheese and Die, which is funny.
It seems to be coming up a lot lately, by the way. Goosebumps and the ventriloquist dummy that we talked about earlier. Well, your husband said it, right? Goosebumps did it better, basically, is what he said.
Yeah, Slappy the dummy. He did it better.
One bigger topic of conversation when it comes to Julie and Elgin that will repeat basically throughout this episode, and it's basically throughout the series. It seems to me that when people buy into this place, they seem okay. The place wants you to accept that this is where you are and this is where you'll be. And what better way to dig into that couch than weed? You're just settling into this place.
I know that she said it's almost like it wants us to have hope because that torments us.
Right.
And it's hard because we've been fighting kind of the opposite battle. We've been saying like, no, the hope is what's killing this place. So it doesn't want you to have hope. It wants to kill your hope. And she's saying that hope really is the greater torture. That was kind of hard to swallow. I'm not sure how I feel about that yet. I need more time to process that.
Well, Henry does mention that earlier on in the episode, but also when we were talking about this place, I think we had thought that there were two forces at work at some point. There's the force of Father Cuttree, and then I was resolved to think, oh, wait, no, but Father Cuttree is not to be trusted. He's just another one of those visions that they want people to see for whatever reason that works on them.
Well, so far, the only thing that we think could be positive is the boy in white.
Right.
And even he was delivered to us ominously in the first season because Ethan sees him outside and doesn't tell anybody. And he's just out there waving and telling him to come outside, which is terrifying because that's where the monsters are. I understand it's during the day, but still, we didn't know a ton about it at the beginning. So.
Right. And which is always going to throw us off. Yeah. Basically, it's like, oh, wait, they see these things during the day. Well, we don't know that people see things, generally speaking, until further down the line.
Jade was right to say it's the same conversation Chrissy had with Kenny about the fact that this is the normal for there. Jade repeats that same sentiment. This means something. We just don't understand the pattern. There is something to this. We just can't figure it out because it's not our norm. It's not our... What did they were referring to physics or whatever at the time. It's not our physics. Great
ball of fire in the sky. He literally says it's all just chaos until you see the pattern. And it's all mysterious to you until you, well, A, you have to lean into the fact that it exists. And B, what was it, Boyd that said this? There's always somebody. No. Oh my God, this is actually the ghoul from Fallout. It all looks like chaos, but there's always somebody behind the, but it's true. It's true. There's always somebody behind the wheel. There's always some underlying principle that we do not yet understand that this stuff operates on. It's fundamentally true. Everything that has scared us through time immemorial, we thought one thing about. We thought bloodletting was to release the humors from our body so that we could feel better. And it definitely did make people feel a lot better.
This place presents all of its information in an ominous way. And that's why it's hard to differentiate like what is good and what is bad. So yeah, there could be two opposing forces. We just don't really know to some degree because the boy in white appears to be helping people. So you have to assume there's some, but then also sometimes you don't know if the information is just delivered in a weird way. And so that's why we think it's bad, but maybe it's not, like the radio where Jim gets the thing saying like your wife
shouldn't be digging in.
She shouldn't be digging
basement.
in there. It's because the house is going to collapse on her. But did the place make the house collapse on her, or was it a warning? And we don't know because it's just the perspective that you have looking at it. We're only looking at it from our hero's vantage point, which is something we've discussed a bajillion times because of The Walking Dead. Just really hard to say. Same thing with Thomas, because is he really a creep or is it? I don't know.
Is it Thomas at all? No,
probably not.
Probably not.
Because he's dead. Who's to say?
And was an infant, and it wasn't terribly long ago, and now he seems to be a full-grown child.
But then also Father Cuttree is dead and is there. So
here he is, right? And he sounds a lot more ornery than his usual self.
Yes, he does.
All of this actually started making me think of Abby again, Abby Stevens, Boyd's wife.
I thought about Abby during this too.
Mostly in relation to Officer Acosta. And this is a loose thing that it doesn't have to be real, but seeing Officer Acosta, who looks kind of similar to probably a younger Abby Stevens, is a terrible reminder for Boyd of what could be, because the gun shooting everybody, which is what she did, was what I said in the last episode, which was, oh, maybe this reminded of him because and what does he want to do in Colony House? He wants to throw her out in the middle of the night because I don't need to deal with that again. I had to do it with my wife. I'm not doing it with a rando.
There's residual anger at Abby because of what happened. And then on top of that, you've got this cop who maybe looks a little bit similar to the actress, but
who played Abby, right?
Yeah. I think also, though, the part that really wore on Boyd is that Donna is breaking in front of his very eyes, and he can't do anything to stop that. Which is
why he stopped yelling at everybody.
Yes. Yeah. But here's the thing. How are you going to bury this reminder? This dude is in the concrete.
I was thinking of that.
This reminder is there every day now for Donna to go back and look at because she's having a complete and utter mental breakdown and you can't do anything to stop it. This strong woman who was there before you were there, who was able to pull herself up by her bootstraps and protect a bunch of people, who fought with you to say, these are the ideals that I want to follow because I am my own person and I will do what I damn well please. She built a society around that. I know we talked about like maybe they're closer now than they were before, but I think a lot of it just has to do with the fact that they sought solace in each other, knowing that each other were the strong leaders in this world.
It was kind of like our pre-show conversation. Do you go back to the way things were before to what worked? Maybe that's the way the monsters want it. Because Randall has that reminder on his face. Dale is a reminder in the pool. It's like the place wants you to not let it forget. Like Boyd says, it's a tell don't show. But Boyd basically says the reason. They want us to not forget during the day that this place is horrible. And you know what? Maybe it's because they pushed back as well. Whatever they did in the last season pushed it to a point where the place itself started changing. It started dying. And so it's like payback's a bitch. And now you have to pay a little bit more.
They are retaining hope, which is why to me it seems like it's the opposite of what Julie's saying. Hope destroys this place. But I don't know now. I don't know because she threw that out there and that perspective does seem valid.
True. A Reddit post said one little nugget that I thought was very interesting. And I want to go back to Abby Stevens because I hadn't finished that thought of why she's important. But they had said something very simple, and that was, you think Henry comes back to reunite with Victor? And that may be true. It could be doing double duty of giving Victor for the first time, because the thing that has saved Victor, it seems to me, is accepting that this is where he lives now. This is his life. There's no getting out. Mm-hmm. And there's no reason for hope. There's no reason for connection because the place puts him in such a position that to make him think that if I'm around people, even my best friend, Ethan, it could get him killed. And the place loves that for him and for them.
Yeah.
But now you bring Henry back, his father. This place is greedy. It needs to make up for the loss from last season of Boyd killing one of their own and making this place die a little bit by giving them too much hope. It's what it feels to me. This show is more about feelings than it is facts, which is odd.
Yeah.
Jade kind of touches on it because he can't fully explain it. He says, and I felt like there were connections. Threads were finally starting to appear, but it's like holding water. This place is feelings over facts. If I feel like I'm making the right move, then you are, actually. You were making the right move. But the other double duty, by the way, introducing Henry, is that what does it get Victor and Sarah not to do in this episode? What does it get in the way of them doing?
To go find Jasper.
Exactly. How elaborate a Rube Goldberg plan to get them to stop finding answers, but to introduce Vic. So credit to the Redditor post. I will somehow make a note to that. I can't do it now. It's not even in my actual notes, but it just popped into my head. I'm like, wow, what a Rube Goldberg-esque way of, isn't that how the Lord works, quote unquote? I mean, if you believe in that sort of thing.
I'll say this. I'm a conspiracy theorist. We all know it. I love a good conspiracy theory. Okay. I just do. Sometimes I think they're funny. Sometimes I believe them. It just depends. When it comes to, and I would say this is less conspiracy theory and more fact. It just open your eyes, people.
Don't you mean sheeple?
Yeah. Whenever there's something going on in the world, the media sometimes will be like, look at this other thing over here. Ignore that.
Politics in a nutshell.
That's how this feels.
It didn't feel that way at first until I actually read the post. I'm like, oh, you're right. Well, and isn't that everything, right? You get so distracted. And then until somebody has the wherewithal to actually point it out to you, you're like, you're absolutely right. Wow. I was too busy looking at here to notice they were effing me from here.
Yeah.
Okay. So the thing I wanted to say about Abby, it's revisiting an idea that I had dismissed, but not for the reasons that you're thinking. She says killing people is the only way, but she says to end the nightmare. And she's right. Upon thinking about who Abby is as a person, she was a Marine. Marines are tough and they will go to the mat for their objective, even if it means certain death. So from her perspective, Iron Abby, right, is what she was called. From her perspective, it doesn't matter if everybody here has to die, including myself. She knew that killing all the people that was feeding this place fear, terror, whatever it is, because clearly the monsters, upon seeing Jade react to the throat being cut from the cow, they're like, I love this. Basically. I love this. It's delicious. And they smear the blood on their shirt to kind of increase the effect, the pheromonal effect of their fear. I don't know how, but Abby sees this right away. She's a Marine. She sticks to her objective. She has a sense that if we kill the food source of this town, it will die. Because everybody initially, when this came out, you couldn't be faulted because that's all the information that we had. Everybody said, oh yeah, you kill everybody, they get to go home. No, they don't get to go home. Abby's a Marine. It's all about ending the threat that it poses to every new person that comes to this town. And so it's not even about saving the people that we have. It's about saving future generations that will have to suffer.
I'd be willing to accept that.
Me too. I'm saying I accept that.
I know you still don't like mine. It's fine. The reason, and I didn't get that from anywhere else, by the way. I didn't read that anywhere. I came up with that on my own. Huh. So I don't know. Well, I don't know if other people are stating that, but the reason I thought of Abby was because everyone was just going off about how Tabitha should have contacted someone and should have done something, which was so stupid. As a viewer, you know that no one is going to believe her. And then they're going to institutionalize her because that's what happens to people who say stuff like this. So then she wouldn't have been able to get back and she wouldn't have been able to tell you that there was a way out. It's a whole thing. That's to say if it was even real. Because we don't even know still if it was real.
Which, by the way, I've been revisiting, is that she never was back to begin with. And maybe Henry was just in this pocket area that this place holds.
We don't really know.
I'm not ready 100% to think that because Acosta and all the EMTs and all that. Either way.
The reason I thought of Abby was because they're asking Tabitha all these questions. They're telling her that she should have done more. And all I keep coming back to in my head is you didn't bother to look up any other person. Were they missing? Were they gone? What happened to Abby? If you looked up Abby, it would have given us the answer as to was she just missing
or did people come back?
She show up? Yeah. And it pushed that button in me. Now I know that they were all wrong with their assumption that she should have told somebody.
But I'm right.
Told somebody until,
Bridget. I'm kidding.
Until they listen, because they have two people there actually who were there, who she was telling to listen and they weren't. Henry actively was not listening to her. It's why they got into a car accident.
And they still wouldn't listen. Okay, when that happened, first of all, I need to explain this. Something that I periodically touch on is my biggest fear is mobs. The terror in
angry
mobs.
Okay.
Biggest fear. Yeah, angry mobs, you trying to say the truth, nobody believing you. Oh my God. Worst fear.
That is a fear.
Classic fear, at least. I don't know if I feel that way this anymore, but it's still there. The echoes of that trauma of the possibility is still there. The second thing I thought of, which is real, which is almost, I feel like they were touching on it in this episode. Everybody thinks that if they were in the time of the Nazis, that they would have killed a Nazi, first of all, which is just crazy. You're absolutely insane. They would have killed Hitler. They would have freed all the Jews and the gays and the communists. Well, maybe leave the communists. Oh, communist joke. Everybody thinks they would be a freedom fighter and they'd be part of the Allies and all that. You wouldn't. You'd be right this way, Jews. Get on the train.
Yep,
that's what you would be, because that's what was going on in this diner. Everybody thinks that they're the noble person. I'm the hero of my own story. I'm the hero of everybody's story. Like, no, you're not.
No, you're
not. A coward.
You're weak and you would cave. Sorry.
Yeah.
We're
just
all
like Rachel
Eugene.
says in the chat, we're all Eugene.
Hands down. That's exactly
Actually,
what it is.
and you're not, because Eugene rose to the challenge when you couldn't. Eugene's a good example of some people get to it later than others, which is fine. As long as we understand that not everybody's capable of rising to the challenge immediately. And we give people time and room to actually catch up with us if it's us that we're talking about.
There's a reason that fight or flight is a real scientific phenomenon that occurs. It's your natural instincts as a human. And let me tell you, probably about 90% of people are flight.
I think 95 or 97% of people are
Dave
freeze.
said I lowballed it. I'm in the freeze category, she said.
Oh, yeah, there you go. See, she said the same. Wow, we're in sync, Rachel. But that's really the fight. Fight is literally freeze.
Flight is like self-preservation, and the fight is confrontation. I'm okay with this confrontation right now. The freeze is like
wherever it goes from there.
Is like I can't to make a decision. It's like saying somewhere.
Yeah, no, freeze is though a form of confrontation though, because you don't have the wherewithal to move. There's that part of you that thinks you should stay, but your brain kicks in and goes, "No, this is a threat." The fight instinct keeps you planted on the floor while you know there's a threat. But yeah, Rachel says it immediately. It's almost attempting to ignore it. Yeah, exactly. Your mind kicks in and it's like, fight, no, don't fight. And meanwhile, you're stuck in place. But it also illustrates something that is very well illustrated in this episode, and that's how even Bacta admits. Bacta, the bus driver, that's all we know is probably her last name, Bacta. She says, you remind me of my sister. She tries to solve every problem and then blames herself subsequently when she realizes she can't. I got swept up by the crowd just as easily as everybody else, and I'm usually the one. And she's a bus driver. She's the one who usually keeps order. The thing about Boyd and the thing about Acosta, it's not that Acosta was wrong when she approached.
No, she's
Boyd.
100% right. It's a great tactic, and he probably will follow through on using it. But it was a knee-jerk reaction.
Right. It's because she was right, though, that he got so mad. The thing about Officer, this is another reason why it reminded me of Abby a little bit, but really it reminds me everything about Boyd. What did Boyd say after the first night? You guys are doing everything wrong. He literally says, you think you could come here and solve everything in a day? What did you do, bro? I'm not even stuck on this thought. And I can see why, by the way, Rachel, this is probably the main reason why you're so mad at Boyd. He went overboard. He told everybody, I told you so, which is something we don't all like.
No.
But I had this sense, and I want to see if you had this sense. It's not a fully formed sense. Again, it's all about feelings, not facts. Just remember that when it comes to this show. Did you feel that he was reacting in a way to Officer Acosta because he felt threatened by her? Almost as though she wanted to take his position?
I did not really get that sense. Now, I was shocked by his response because it's very unlike Boyd. But again, I think that comes from a place of being so worried about Donna and being so on guard about everything else that's going on. It's also kind of the beating your head against a wall thing. I'm saying the same things. You guys aren't listening. Then I'm immediately having to have a conversation with my son and say, like, dude, keep your girl in check. What is going on here? You're feeding into the fear and you're allowing your wife to feed into the fear. And that's like wildfire.
Well, and be a better potential father for your kid. You have to keep him and your wife safe. Don't go saying, let's take chances.
I get why he's frustrated because he's saying, I already told you I went through this stupid, which is the other thing. The fact that all these people are like, well, you walk through a magic tree. I'm like, have you guys not talked about this? Have you not had a single conversation about it? Victor's known about these trees forever. And you just assumed he was like bananas crazy. And you're like, oh, you can't walk through a tree. That guy's nuts. He's always talking about weird stuff and drawing like a child.
To be fair, he's easy to dismiss.
He is. But then Boyd came back with this evil thing in this music box. And he says, I go through a tree. Also, Julie's like, I went through a tree. They keep saying this. Ethan's like, yeah, he showed me. It's a faraway tree.
That was the flourish, by the way. Ethan saying, oh, yeah, he names it where nobody heard the name. Oh, the faraway tree. You know the faraway tree, right? Yeah, that's the thing in this place. And everybody's kind of like, it's the first time I've heard of this.
Victor told him what it was that. Yeah, exactly, Rachel. Face-eating monsters, believable. Magic trees, no. Nah. That's too far.
To be fair, it's less face-eating monsters than cavity-eating monsters. It eats your cavity. Anyway, just technicality.
So, I'm rolling right over that. So, I could see where that level of frustration comes from. And then he stands up for this woman, not because he feels like he owes her anything, because he doesn't. And she did make a lot of mistakes. You literally chained someone up and left them to die after they had tried to warn you numerous times. So it's kind of like maybe to him, Tabitha represented how he feels right now. I'm telling you the same things over and over and over again, and you're not listening to me. And it's like you're willingly lemminging yourselves off of a cliff. She came in and she's like, hey, dude, I've got this idea. This is how you can calm him down. And he's probably just like, I don't care if I calm them down. They're being idiots. Also, you think I don't know how to calm people down? Of course I do. But I'm not calm because I'm angry because they're acting like idiots. And I just told them that I was in an underground chimney. And they're like, well, still going to walk through the tree.
Meanwhile, when he said that in the diner, even Dale kind of went, oh, yeah. But then immediately was like, no, I'm tired of your rules. Because I get it. I really do get their perspective. I do It's too. Hard for me not to get their perspective. Because they're kind of just, when are we going to go home? When is this going to be over?
Well, that's the thing about the show. It's what it keeps reiterating. Change your perspective. It changes what we see as rules or what we see as the guidelines for this. If you change the perspective that you have, it changes the way that this place operates or looks to you. When we stop thinking about everybody being an evil, ominous character, and maybe some of them are good, then it changes the things that they say. Do they mean that they're threatening you, or are they just informing you?
He's the escape room operator. He's like,
yes,
don't touch that.
Yeah.
Don't touch that. That's not a clue. That's nope. That's the light fixture.
Stop doing that.
Don't do it. Okay. That's all they're doing. They're just, Jade was right from the start. And I'm sure Sharon agrees with me. She will probably find out when she listens to this later.
I get the frustration. I think it just comes from I backed you up because it's what's right. It's not because I agree with you or we're friends now. I don't even know you. And you're just going to waltz in here and tell me how to do my job. I don't know that it was a threat to him for his position as much as he was just really pissed and banging his head against a wall.
I 100% agree. But what I also think is that she, just like Henry, by the way, Henry Kavanaugh, Victor's father, is pointing out things that people took for granted when he first got here. The whole motel thing. This is why I think it's because she's right that he hates it. Is because he knows that he's losing the one thing that when he got here was crucial to making people's lives better here, was introducing structure. Structure was the thing that he was known for here. And he realizes that's all slipping away.
He still had real world perspective, and he's lost that because he's been there too long.
That's my point. These new people seem to have more perspective, and they're introducing things that, yes, would be on brand for Boyd for the longest time. Mm-hmm. But now the monsters have pushed him to a point where he cannot perform his function. And I think underlyingly, despite what she did at Colony House, shooting Nikki, and then she ends up dying because a comment was made in this episode. Marielle says she was stable, and all of a sudden she wasn't. And meanwhile, you don't have any, in the same breath, it's a miracle you don't even have any fractures. This place.
I did think back to that, Dave, because Tabitha's head bruise is almost completely gone already.
Yeah, exactly.
And Henry is up and walking around, even though he was severely injured in a car accident.
And his black eye is, I think, all but gone.
Almost gone. Yeah, I thought of that too, where I was like...
When he hit the steering wheel, I'm assuming?
I was like, this is weird that they are almost completely healed, certain people.
In one day.
Yeah.
Yeah. In less than a day. Let's just put it that way. It's because she's right. It's because she is just like him after he came within 24 hours, stumbled in with his family. She's doing the same thing, and he hates her for it. He's jealous of her for it. I'm not saying actively. I'm saying unconsciously. This makes total sense from his perspective because it pairs very nicely to what both he and Tabitha say in this episode. It's that I owe it to them. I keep not having the answers, both of them, not having the answers that they so desperately sought from me, whether it's because I was able to leave this place or because that's what my function is. I don't have that. I'm sick and tired of not being able to provide that for them and only be able to provide them with some sort of rationale for how to conduct themselves in this place. He made promises. He wrote checks that they couldn't cash. He promised them a way out.
I don't think that that's where that came from, but I can appreciate the opinion on it.
Listen, all of this is really to say that I gotta say the writing here, when it comes to these particular scenes, especially the Acosta scene, but then adding all the other scenes together to kind of give this scene a little bit more framework, it's so rich that you can take a lot away from just some simple words and simple yelling at each other. Because again, this show does a great job of leaving things up to interpretation, which we love on The Walking Dead. You could come away with both things and you could be right, let's say, in a given moment. I want to completely shift topics to Jade and Tabitha and the tree. Let's start with the basics. Things that we do know, which is always a good place to start because, the moon, again, has to put on pants one leg at a time.
Like the rest of us.
Right. The moon is, crazy as it is, still puts on its pants one leg at a time. The first leg is the thing that we know, or at least underpants.
Rachel says we know absolutely nothing.
Well, we do know one thing. It feels, again, feelings over facts. It feels like, and correct me if I'm wrong if you don't have this feeling, Tabitha and Jade messing with all the bottles in the tree really screwed Dale's pooch, because one of the things that at least Victor made aware was that this tree was one of those static faraway trees. It took you from one place to another. I don't know about back, but this tree was meant to take you to the lighthouse. Them messing with the tree numbers, which sound like dates, which sound like years, really screwed the pooch for Dale. Agree or disagree?
Disagree.
Okay, why?
Rachel disagrees also. So one,
just because I like disagreeing with you, Dave.
Yeah, I don't like agreeing with you. No,
it's a valid.
That's not why.
Thing.
I did not think that.
You didn't get that sense at all?
That theory doesn't hold water because one of the bottles was knocked off when Jim knocked it off, and Tabitha went through the tree after that.
Right. Okay, hold on a second. Well, what's great about what you just said, I actually looked at my notes from that recap. What is the one thing that Tabitha sees in her dream as she's going up the stone staircase, presumably of the lighthouse, because we kind of saw it later in season 2.
Toys?
At the end of season 2.
Oh, a bottle.
A bottle falls down the stairs.
Yeah.
And Jim is hanging upside down. What? So that bottle had to fall
to get to the lighthouse.
And it wasn't Jim, it was Boyd, by the way, that took down that bottle. He read the bark. Let me just go even further on this. Boyd takes down the bottle. Now, it's not Jim that takes down the bottle, but he does end up hanging upside down at the end of her dream. Whatever. The bottle he takes down is bark, and instead of just a number, Arabic numerals, it's written down 18, the word 1864. Now, your brain automatically sees 4 numbers as a person in this world and thinks that's a year. And when you read out 1864, of course, you're thinking a year.
Can I say what I think it is then before you do this? Because I want to see if it's the same thing. My thought was, I don't know if it's screwed Dale, because in my head the tree like is a static tree or whatever, but I thought maybe, because they can't be years, because she said one of them says like 2642 or whatever. So it's like, it's too high to be a year as of real time. I thought maybe it was numbered locations.
The coordinates?
Yes, but for the place, like 2642 would take you here, and 1862 or whatever would take you here, whatever the numbers are, would take you to this location.
Yeah.
Okay, so is that what you were going to say?
That's a thought that I had. Same as you. I want to backtrack because Rachel said, Victor already explained that the trees are inconsistent. The faraway trees are inconsistent. You have to remember that they are, generally speaking, they can make you wind up anywhere. The bottle tree, or even, I'll go even take it further. The bottle tree or bottle trees themselves are meant to take you from only one place to another. It's not a random one. It is a directional one. It has a beginning and end, an A and a B. It doesn't take you to random places. Now, listen, we don't know anything. But like I said, the more I watch this show, the more it's about feelings over facts. And this puts us in a very precarious position because I could be wrong. You should correct me here. I'm about to say something absolutely insane. But I feel like I am a listener of all theories and see how I can integrate it into the matrix of what I'm thinking. And I can reject it and I can be totally fine. I can accept it. And it adds to something I've thought of. Fine. But this show of all shows has made me completely ungrounded. I think we can all agree with that.
That's fair.
Whereas I thought I was usually the one who was more grounded in reality. I may commit to a thought. Any other show, Walking Dead universe, Fallout, whatever. Remember Fallout? I would say things that are completely grounded in reality that I think will happen, and you'd be like, F you, Dave, you watched this series. Right. Of course. When it comes to this show, it's all about feelings. I have to stop. Yeah, maybe the animals are people. Yes. Okay, I know.
Rachel,
if I'm right?
You've become a complete conspiracy theorist when it comes to the show.
I've become a nut job on the show. So there's a point to what I'm saying here. It feels like what Victor's saying is true. And Miranda, subsequently, this is where he gets his information from his mom, that this tree was meant to take her to the lighthouse to free the children, blah, 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 whatever. Mm-hmm. It feels like them messing with all the bottles in the tree completely screwed it up. Because the bottle tree is a bottle tree because there's bottles hanging from it. But without all the numbers in the bottles, it screws up its magical power. Again, you're willing to concede that monsters come out at night and them not messing with the tree won't screw it up, Rachel?
No, I could see that maybe being the case. I assumed that the location that it took Tabitha to and would have taken Miranda to had more to do with them being chosen for that.
Okay. I'm totally willing to accept that.
I don't know. Yeah. That was kind of my thought on it.
So maybe Victor was only half right when he said this.
Yeah, maybe. I don't really know.
Which is why he never went into that tree.
I don't really know. Now I'm interested to see what happens because it feels like Jade is on the right path. The fact that he's like, no, see,
because he doesn't really know.
Yeah, because he's like, no, it doesn't have to be years. It could be something else. You know, we see 4 numbers and that's what we assume, but maybe it's something else because we don't know the rules here. And it made me wonder about the kids because Tabitha's back and the children haven't been saved. And then Jade saw them after she left and saw that the symbol that he's been seeing is actually the roots growing through the ground. And then it's like, but where is that? Where is that really then if they're not there in the cave? Yes, Rachel, that's my exact thought. That was my exact thought. So she says there would have to be a trial and error, meaning someone went through the tree and back several times, a travel from each bottle to figure this all out. That is exactly what I thought it was. Someone had spent their time writing down the possible coordinates. I don't know what that means.
Basically what Jade says.
I don't know what that means for this, though.
Someone had to think of doing this in order for it to be what it is. Someone would have to take the fact that there's no motel there. So one of the Reddit posts that I had read was that these numbers aren't dates. They aren't whatever. They're numbers. I don't agree with this, but I thought it was a great thought. They're numbers for a motel that doesn't exist.
Way too high.
It's a cool idea. It's a cool feeling, let's say. There would have to be a 26th floor to this motel because 26, whatever it was.
Even if the first floor was in the thousands and the second floor was in the 2000s, it still doesn't
I don't
really make
I don't
sense.
think about this at all. But what it helped me think of was something that I feel like Jade in this moment. Well, if you pull me out of the idea that these are years, which is the gut instinct, do you see 4 numbers, you automatically think a year. That theory about motel room numbers, which there's only 2 floors, so whatever, got me to thinking, no. Because of the way it was written down on the first paper that Boyd finds, it's written 1864. It's literally 2 sets of numbers. I don't know what that means yet, but this little bit of data, this little clue leads me to believe that these are 2 sets of numbers together that represent something, 2 pairs of numbers that must mean something. My closest thought about this is it's quite possible that these numbers represent the people that are here, the finite amount of people. Each bottle represents a person in this stuck place. And maybe Boyd knocked the bottle that represents her, 1864, that represents Tabitha, for her to be able to go through it. Let's just use that as a thought experiment.
Maybe.
I'm not committed to it. There's a concerted effort to acknowledge the fact that when somebody new comes into town, somebody got to go.
I'm really hoping that they go back and talk to Henry about the bottle tree, because I would like to know if Miranda had put numbers in the bottles in the first place. Was the original bottle tree like this? We never got to see it, so we don't know. And
in fact, what was he saying? When they were saying going on a field trip to the park,
the day
I wouldn't
trip.
do that because
going to the day,
right,
on
a day trip. He was about to explain it. And all of a sudden, Tabitha walks in. He's like, well, no, that's not what it is at all. And then Donna just shoves it. Henry, shut the hell up.
Which
Tabitha's
is so annoying
like,
because
no,
they're
wait.
finally getting to, I know, they might like finally get some actual information that might help.
Yeah,
anyway.
Shut up, old man. The woman we know is here. We don't know you. It's the same thing when Henry bumps into Victor. It's like he gets in the way of the thing that they were about to do as well.
Yes. Rachel says
because he had some answers.
Rachel said, could it have been Miranda? She made the original in the theoretical real world. Did she test the tree to see where it went, if it's coordinates? But anyway, she's going to bed. So good night. I love you.
Right. I love you too, Rachel. Thank you so much for stopping by.
She might be gone
You didn't
already.
have to. Yeah, that's okay. This is for her later. This is a testimonial that we do love her. No, but I agree with that. In fact, it seems like Tabitha is one of those people, maybe, because she sees the visions of the children. She has to free them from the tower or whatever. Miranda is another one of them. It seems like there may be 3 people. Henry mentions that there was one before her, or maybe they've been generations, but at least the 3 that he knows roughly about.
He alludes to the fact that she said that there have been others and they have not been able to save the children. Almost like she knew that it was a fool's errand.
It brings me back to the drawing that Victor drew of the 3 women that Ethan picks up when Victor leaves it in frustration from Tien Chen Lu's house. Well, no longer the Lu house. It's the one of the 3 women surrounded by flowers, and there's a shadowy figure off to the left.
Yeah.
Could this be the 3 women that we may be referring to, at least this generation of women? That would namely be Tabitha, Miranda, and the person that may have come before her. Okay. I love this little line. We're kind of going back to this, but it comes later. Elgin says at first, and he was rightfully scared of the kimono wearing lady. What does she do at first? She pushes him down into the tub.
Well, he thought that's what she was doing.
To wake him up. Right, exactly. Yeah. And later on he finds out, she's actually asking for help. It's like this place. Is it trying to threaten me or is it trying to give me information? Okay. Anyway, she says something that his grandma said. And I thought, A, that was really funny, first of all. B, aren't angels in the Bible exactly spoken about in that manner, their presence is so imposing because it makes you feel so much smaller.
Here, let me get the biblical wording. Hold on, because it is horrifying. Okay. So here's the thing. This has come to my attention a lot recently, being the kind of person that I am and also being a Christian. I'm into horror movies, obviously. I'm into things like this show. I am on a Walking Dead podcast. This is my whole vibe. I like spooky stuff. My husband would consider me probably the least alternative person he's ever met. But to me, in this vein, in the world of Christianity, I would be considered alternative, especially this month. Like, oh, I love your clothes. You're dressed for Halloween. No, these are just my clothes. I wear a skeleton dress pretty regularly, but it's fine. We can ignore it until October.
Your inner goth girl sometimes makes an appearance.
Just like a little bit, right? Like goth light.
Diet goth.
As it turns out, there are quite a few people online, one, who are Christian and who are even more goth in appearance than I am, way more. And people are really judgmental about these types of Christians. So the joke now has become that they're Christians in dark mode, as if they're just on dark mode.
Like a website in dark mode. Gotcha.
They're just on dark mode.
Well, they're easier to read.
And
they're easier on the eyes, if you know what I mean.
It's like Christians who listen to like Christian punk or Christian metal, or they're just really into like alternative clothing, which would be kind of like where I am. I still listen to punk music because I've really always listened to punk. I mean, I still listen to 2000s emo too, but
Dave makes hard hands.
Less than 3, Dave.
So, really showing your cards today.
I know. I feel like I fall into this realm of being Christian, but being like a little bit different than the other people that you're around at church. Because the people at church...
You're saying you're a day walker?
I'm a day walker.
You navigate both worlds?
I do. No, that's not what I'm saying at all, Dave. What I'm saying is that like my aesthetic, like the aesthetic that I prefer, doesn't really match up necessarily with society's viewpoint of that aesthetic.
Right, I get it.
When it comes to Christianity then, so there are people out there and there are content creators who do specifically talk about this. And I don't agree with everything that they say, but they specifically talk about this. And they often use biblical descriptions of things out of the Bible because it's really spooky. They look really cool. There's a description of Jesus in the book of Revelation that has 7 eyes. It looks like a ram's head. People have tattoos of that in the book of Revelation.
His face?
Yes. It's a descriptor for Christ, but the book of Revelation isn't all... this is exactly what it is. Sometimes it's analogies because the book of Revelation talks about like 7 lampstands and Christ is holding 7 stars in his hands. There's all of this weird visual imagery because... metaphor, but also John was just a man and he was tasked with writing this. He was shown things by God. And so maybe this was as close as he could get to explaining what this thing looked like.
It's all the mind can handle, basically.
Right? Yeah.
You take from it what you will.
People get stuff like that tattooed on their bodies. And then there's Christians that are out there that are like, this is demonic. And you're like, no, actually.
No, it's right there. Let me point chapter and verse. Let me point it out.
It's literally in the Bible and it's describing angels or it's describing Christ or whatever. Here is the biblical description of angels. This is written in Isaiah. So this is Old Testament. This isn't even New Testament. This is Old Testament. Isaiah 6:2. Above him stood the seraphim. Each had 6 wings. With 2 he covered his face, and with 2 he covered his feet, and with 2 he flew. I don't know. Right. That sounds pretty terrifying to me already. That's like at least imposing.
Well, seraphim are different than regular angels, though. By the way,
don't challenge me, Dave. Don't challenge
You're right.
me. Seraphim, if I'm not mistaken, were the angels who essentially worship God around his throne. They wouldn't be like Gabriel, the angel who visited Mary and Joseph in the New Testament.
Because they're more messengers.
Yes, correct. Right. So there's different types of angels. That is agreed upon. Right. But anyway.
Seraphim are like the royal guard for God.
Yes.
Looking at it that way. Well, let me get this point out of the way. I really enjoyed that part because it illustrates exactly what this place is about, what you're trying to touch on earlier, about the big ball of fire in the sky, the sun. We don't understand it at first until we dig in and we find the mechanics of it and we're like, oh, this thing that we thought we were supposed to be terrified of is actually a normal thing, like Fatima's pregnancy, after it, all the way down the line. Once we get a better understanding of it, we can know what we need to do in order to deal with it. Only this place doesn't operate on anything that we're familiar with. Henry is rifling around in Victor's room. He's like, it's not at all his bedroom from when he was growing up, but he's looking around the room and he's seeing all these different drawings, which probably gets him to thinking, about Miranda because she had tons of them in the basement that she showed Tabitha. One of the drawings that he points to that I didn't think anything of really, but I noticed that it was notable that he stuck on it, was a drawing of what I contend, what some people have said are what angels look like. It looks sort of like a hooded figure, a teardrop hood of some kind.
Interesting.
And it kind of looked like a snow angel. When you're making snow angels, it has the wings kind of look flappy on the outside, and then the feet look more like a tail at the end of the day. That's what his caricature looked like, the drawing looked like. And so I thought to myself, wait, okay, so we have this kimono wearing lady that Elgin is relegating to maybe she's a messenger of God, or not exactly that, but terrifying. Not in quite the way that I think his grandma described, but whatever. And we all know that Victor drew things that he saw, whether it was, let's just even admit, it could be something that he saw in his dreams. It could be something that he actually saw in this place. So if he's seeing actual literal angels in the way that I think he, or maybe would disturb him or whatever it was, kind of like what we were saying about the Polaroids, maybe it shows what they're supposed to be seeing rather than what this place wants them to see. I think maybe they're seeing different things from their own different perspective, which is probably why they can't do a lot of information sharing too, because not everybody's able to actually see the same things. Occasionally you get a point where like Tabitha is seeing the boy in white, Sarah seeing the boy in white, Victor seeing the boy in white, Ethan seeing the boy in white. But everything else, nobody's able to come together on in terms of what they're able to see, in terms of visions at the very least.
Yeah. So there's more than just seraphim, obviously. That's why we know there's other types of angels. I was wrong. I'm sorry. I thought it was in Revelation. It's actually in Ezekiel. So this is in the Old Testament.
Yeah, Heskel, right.
So each of the cherubim had 4 faces. One face that was that of a cherub. The second, the face of a human being. The third, the face of a lion. And the fourth, the face of an eagle. And cherubim were the angels placed at the Garden of Eden after Adam and Eve were ejected to block it from humans entering it ever again. They were there with flaming swords to stop anyone from coming back in. It also says, this is wild. So now as I look at the living creatures, behold, a wheel was on the earth beside each living creature with its 4 faces. This is again like the cherubim thing. The appearance of the wheels and their workings was like the color of beryl, and all 4 had the same likeness. The appearance of their workings was as it were a wheel in the middle of a wheel. And when they moved, they went toward any one of 4 directions. They did not turn aside when they went. And then there's another verse also in Ezekiel.
They're like chess pieces. We can only move this way and that way.
Their entire bodies, including their backs, hands, and wings, were full of eyes all around, as were their 4 wheels. So when people have drawn them now, like if you look this up, biblical image of an angel, it's like wings with just like a ton of eyes in the middle. And it's like grotesque looking. It's like horrifying looking to see. Anyway, that's the whole point. To the average person, and unfortunately even to the average Christian, they see this and they're like, that's demonic, that looks evil. But it's not. That's literally the biblical description we're given of angels who God has said are there to be his messengers, to work for him, to help us. And yet they sound horrifying.
Right. This type of angel, sure. Because it's beyond our comprehension. Once we see it, it breaks the reality that we know of. This, again, it goes back to Acosta, because she's pointing out life is uncontrollable. All we can do is have some sort of structure to keep us locked within this life we're trying to live. Because when something horrible happens, like a natural disaster that takes everything you know, throws it in the garbage, you have to find reasons to go on, period. When Henry is in that room, Victor's room in Colony House, it was a little disturbing when he was talking about the first few years, having that little bit of hope. And then he gets to the rope that Victor hung in order to escape Colony House that night before he knew that things were popping off. Somehow, by the way. This is another thing we have to kind of remember, is that Victor somehow knew that this place was going to be attacked. He dug the graves ahead of time, preparing for that attack.
Like Jim on The Walking Dead. That's what we talked about.
Which is why you couldn't fault me in thinking that he saw something that he drew as a premonition.
Yeah, I understand. You did say premonition. I kind of was like, no, it wasn't a premonition, but yeah.
No, you're an idiot. Don't say anything else. But when Henry touches that rope, it was what was once something that was a saving grace for Julie and Victor felt like the noose. The thing that he was touching on is that he was losing hope. And it wasn't until he had to assume that every one of his family is dead, that he could at least go on. Like, did you feel that sense too when he held that rope? There was like something a little disturbing about it.
Yeah, because the way it was tied, it was like meant to look like a noose. There was something there. And he was awfully close to the window.
Yep.
Yeah, it was off-putting, to say the least.
It's kind of like everything in this episode. Shots were being held or filmed in such a way that you're supposed to look at it more carefully, and yet there's nothing there. But it feels like, again, it's feelings over facts, that there's something there, that you're imparting more of feeling than you are facts. You're trying to inform somebody of a feeling over an actual thing that you can get evidence off of. And in that, by the way, as much as I was dreading talking about The Walking Dead Daryl Dixon, not to say anything about it, sorry, I could not wait to talk about this episode because of the way it made me feel. It made me understand more of what you were saying about the reason why I like the Walking Dead universe. There was so much there to be able to talk about. It ignites that little bit of excitement of something new that I can dig into. And then, you get to the part where Victor and Henry reunite. Like everything in the series, it's fraught. They're both afraid that they're not the person that the other person remembers. And what I thought would happen was Henry saying he was sorry. But what ended up happening was Victor saying, I'm sorry, I couldn't get back to you. I couldn't get back to you.
He kept saying, I couldn't find my way home.
Right. That's exactly how I would have said it as a kid.
I did tear up. Now, it moved on from that moment so spectacularly quickly, so it felt like I didn't have time to really
register.
Sit and process, but I started to tear up during it because it just showed the innocence. And Tabitha has said it so many times, he's much like a child still himself. And something along those lines is how she describes him. We all think that. But to see it in this moment and to think can he move on now from this childlike state? Now that his dad is here? I don't know where that's going to lead, but he's being more brave now. He's kind of finding his footing. So I'm is he going to be able to move on from this childlike Victor that we've seen to be not a full grown adult Victor, but just a step above where he is now?
Well, and we've already started noticing that too. The fact that he's becoming friends with Ethan anyway, in spite of himself, in spite of trying to not be, because Ethan kind of says he's not going to be my friend anymore.
In the meantime, I found the Bible verse from Revelation that I was thinking of. Revelation 5:6. And then I saw a lamb looking as if it had been slain, standing at the center of the throne, encircled by the 4 living creatures and the elders. The lamb had 7 horns and 7 eyes, which are the 7 spirits of God, sent out into all of the earth. He went and took the scroll from the right hand of him who sat on the throne. And when he had taken it, the 4 living creatures and the 24 elders fell down before the lamb. Each one had a harp, and they were holding gold bowls of incense, which are the prayers of God's people. And they sang a new song, saying, "You are worthy to take the scroll and to open its seals, because you were slain. And with your blood you purchased for God persons from every tribe and language and people and nation." It's a description of Christ. Now, reading that, it doesn't sound like it. It sounds like...
Doesn't sound like it at all.
It sounds super crazy. But the reference to the right hand of God, Jesus was at God's right hand. That's in a lot of imagery. The Old Testament refers to Jesus as the Spirit of the Lord. It's not the Holy Spirit. Anyway, the Messiah, your people would say.
True.
Anyway, the right hand of God, slain for the lives of the sinful through an innocent death, the whole 9. That's
if you think about it, the Aztecs aren't that bad, because if we slay the blood of the innocent, I don't know about the Aztec, I kind of confused the two. But yeah, they're onto something. Maybe they have their own version of this. Anyway.
I see what you're saying there.
But maybe it's all perspectives too, because you could look at that and say, oh, I get it.
I didn't need to go back to it. I didn't need to go back to it. It was killing me that I couldn't remember where it was. So you
couldn't find this one specific thing that you were thinking of. I get it. No, but to kind of go back to Victor, and I want to compare him to Ethan, they're kind of going on the same trajectory. Ethan is getting a hard knock sort of education on mortality, how things look on the inside. Well, and Victor being not way over, but over the hump of middle age, is also kind of accepting the fact that if this place doesn't get me, life in general is going to get me. He's going through his own version of what that might look like as a midlife crisis.
Yeah.
And that in that, he's starting to take more chances, because he's like, well, I don't want to take whatever life I've I don't know what wasted, but just waiting here doing nothing except eating peaches and being compliant. I don't want to waste that while there are people I'm starting to care about that are going to suffer. whether it's the whole town dies, like he thinks it's going to happen, which is why he's talking to Jasper or wants to talk to Jasper, and now that Henry's here, it's like now he's going to be prompted to move out of the usual place he occupies because his blood father is here. And this place went so far as to torture him for 40 years plus, well, almost 50.
Yeah.
And then to torture him even further. It's like, well, you managed to make it this far. It's so much sweeter that your dad is here now, because now you're going to want to have a little bit of hope, or at least drive yourself to try to leave this place, because you actually literally have somebody baked in that you care about, that you're going to want to help get out of this place.
It was so innocent too, because he doesn't want to talk to his dad, and it's not because his dad is there and he's like mad at him, which is what Henry thinks it's going to be.
A predominant theory, by the way. Everybody had this assumption that Henry was this abuser and that's why they ran away. And
the thought crossed my mind, obviously, but the truth was,
why wouldn't Miranda take all the kids away?
Yeah, exactly. It seems weird, but I mean, things happen. Dad's work, and maybe mom went to go visit some relatives. Anyway, there's
no babysitter.
It becomes more about the fact that he is ashamed. One, that he couldn't find his way home. Obviously, he gets that. He says that. But two, it's like he's ashamed that he didn't want to remember his dad.
Yeah. Yeah. Or he didn't think of.
Because that was the way that he could cope. Because how would you be able to cope knowing that your adult was out there? Yeah, it's the same thing. It's just from a different perspective. Again, it's all about perspective, Dave.
They think the same thing, but to cope. To get both to survive this place. When you leave your heart in the stuck place, like your son or whatever, your family, that's as far as he knew.
Yeah.
But is it, that's so rife. It's so rife with feeling. I wanted to just share this one thing. I don't know if there's much to say else about this episode. What made that scene was what Victor said. I couldn't find my way back. I
couldn't find my way home.
When I was a kid, I decided taking my bike to my piano lesson. Yes, I took piano lessons as a child.
Who didn't?
Right. Well, a lot of people. I lived in the suburbs of New Jersey.
Oh, we didn't have any money, and I still took piano lessons. But they were free. They were through public school.
Oh, okay. Okay. So we had the piano teachers actually will periodically visit the school, I think, for different functions in the community, whatever. But one of the things was that I rode my bike to the piano lesson, and I was trying to bike home. And I'm remembering this vividly because I started thinking all these weird thoughts and I couldn't find my way back. And my one thought was at the time that I was letting my mom down, my parents down, that I would make them worry. I thought other things, like your mind goes through this journey.
We didn't have cell phones.
Oh yeah, well, just to give you context, this was the 80s.
Yeah, there was no way.
Yeah, this was the 80s, the mid 80s. I was 7, maybe 8 years old. And by the way, that's weird too, right? 7 or 8 years old and you're on this bicycle and there's no supervision or anything like that. Whatever.
No, we did whatever we wanted.
Which is fine if you're not. Exactly. Your mind goes through this journey and mine went here. Oh, this is just like a video game. This is my initial thought. You have to kind of make it through these quests or find these clues to how to get back. And you're jumping over alligators and you're whatever. In your mind, you're like, this is a moat and I'm going to jump over it. And you're trying to distract yourself from what you're worried is happening right now, that you are lost. And you get to the point where you're like, this might be it. And the last thing I thought of was until I finally found a kind of way to figure out where I was supposed to be going, is that they're going to be so worried about me. And like in the way that you would think they're going to be so disappointed in me. Not only that I couldn't do it or I couldn't make it back, but they'd be so upset if something happened to me. In a way, you're thinking, because you're starting to have agency, and then it's all my fault. I made them think that I could do this. And so you start getting really worried. And so when he said those words, that hit me like a ton of bricks. Oh, I remember that feeling. I remember feeling really, really scared about being lost. This is also in the evening and people are at home and you realize one thing. You could at any point in time, this is the worst part, is not thinking about this. You could walk up to somebody's house and say, I'm an 8-year-old boy. You don't think you can do this, but you can do this. And you can get away with it every single time. I'm an 8-year-old boy. I can knock up to any house. I'm lost. I know my number. I know my address too, by the way. This is one of those things they drill into you. But at the time, you're thinking, this is my job. I'm failing at this job of getting home. I don't want to ask for help. I want to be able to do this. This is adult brain, by the way. I can go to any house and they'd be like, yeah, it's like, trick-or-treaters. It's like little children comes to your house and says, I need to go home. I don't know where my home is.
It was a big deal when our parents trusted us enough to do new tasks.
Yeah, agreed.
It's still, it's still
and
a big
biked
deal
in
for
our
kids
neighborhood
now.
all the time.
Yeah, it's still a big deal for kids now. You get trusted to let the dog out or whatever. That's a big deal. And so if something goes wrong, like you let the dog out and then the dog gets out of the fence and gets lost, then all of a sudden that comes back on you. Like I was given this ounce of responsibility and now I totally screwed it up. Now, the realistic part of that is that your parents would understand because they understand that you're a child.
Be blaming themselves.
God willing, they understand that you're a child. And they wouldn't blame you if you live in a healthy environment. But
exactly. Right. Most parents would be like, I failed my child. Mm-hmm. This is only to illustrate the similitude between this being lost on my bike. It's getting dark, scary, and not recognizing at the time. But as an adult, like, oh, they would have been, had I told them, I didn't tell them. I was like, oh, I got home and it was everything was okay. Nobody had to know. But had it taken even longer than it already was, they would feel like they let me down. They did something wrong and that maybe they gave me a little bit too long a leash and the dog got away from them.
You were talking about things that were distracting people. Henry coming back and Victor seeing him distracted Victor and Sarah from their quest. Well, you will say quest because that's what Ethan used when he was still innocent.
Love it. And it feels right.
So they're not going to look for Jasper now because of this. At least momentarily, they're sidetracked. You got to remember back, Boyd was trying to track the monsters to capture one, and he's been sidetracked. Can't forget about that one. On top of that,
Henry about to explain that the bottle tree existed in the real world until Donna interrupted him. Tabitha's here, you idiot. Stop talking, old man.
Yes, and I had one
She makes
more.
it up to him later by getting clothes. Fatima, that happened too. Ellis kind of finds out about her pica, but not really about the Nikki part.
Yeah.
We should mention that.
Left out the blood
Big
part.
reveal for them.
Yeah, that was.
Give him a little. Don't give him everything, though. Which made me feel better about her being such a B word.
They have gotten sidetracked from the food.
Which Kenny mentions.
Half of the food is still left out at the cabin. And there's something out at the cabin that they don't know what it is, but is walking around the cabins at night.
That knocks into the houses.
That happened even before the thing was knocked down. The idol things. Whatever is out there is out there. We've lost sight of a couple different quests already.
And they're going to send another team out there to pick up the rest of the food, which...
But are they? Because they haven't done it yet.
Right. There's too much going on.
There's too much happening.
There's chaos in the town.
So they haven't gotten the food. Boyd isn't capturing a monster like he said he was going to. We're sidetracked from the fact that Henry knows more about the bottle tree, but nobody cares because they're mad at Tabitha. We're sidetracked from going to look for Jasper. And the whole trip out of the lighthouse sidetracked Tabitha from saving the children.
Well, and even that's kind of a red herring.
The boy in the white said that she had to go. This was the only way that she could save them. But we still don't know what any of that means.
Well, he said this was the only way.
Yes.
Which is why I'm not ready to say that it's saving the children in the tower. That's why I think the children in the tower might be a red herring. It's just a way to get her to do something she wouldn't normally do in order to suit their agenda or whatever agenda this place has.
Why would Miranda be given visions of it for so many years prior to going? There has to be something to that.
There might have to be something to that. But here's the thing. She goes, and I get it. Miranda and Tabitha go on this entire journey on a feeling. It's only right that I free children from a tower that they're being held against their will or whatever. It's not their fault they look like ghoul children.
Angui.
It's not their fault. So she's going on a feeling. And I think what makes her special, and maybe even Miranda special in that respect, is that maybe Miranda also went through a similar loss to Tabitha. I'm not ready to commit to that, but maybe that unlocks something, because Miranda too has two children, Victor and Eloise, or Eloise and Victor. I think Eloise was the older one. So there may be something to that. Maybe they too experience, which we'll find about later. They experienced the loss of an infant, and maybe that infant, maybe it was Thomas that made the phone call from the tower that Thomas seems to be trapped in. Maybe Victor and Eloise had a sibling who died in childbirth or just post childbirth that is also locked in the tower.
Well, we don't know. It could have been miscarriage or stillborn, or we have no idea. And people don't talk about that stuff. So,
and especially back then, right? And the further back you go, the less people want to talk about that stuff.
Correct.
True.
Correct.
Right. So maybe there's something to that. Here's the thing. You have to get to the point where that can make sense in this story. And my hope is that as we keep going on, we keep getting pseudo answers to these questions. I hope that we can finally get to that point where we'll accept that as an answer, because you got to build that baby. You have to build it such that we can grasp it and not make it look like Jesus's 4-eyed head, with ram's head thing.
7-eyed.
With the angels and the wings. 7, right. Yeah, exactly. What I said 4-eyed. Jesus was a nerd. They weren't being literal. He didn't have 4 eyes, you idiot. He had glasses.
I mean, I always kind of understood why Rachel and Sharon D didn't care for the pile-on of so many mysteries.
This was a lot.
But I have to say, I'm not mad about it ever. If anything, it reels me in more.
It's like this bait for those whom it captivates.
Yes.
And maybe it's like this place. Maybe we're stuck because they've managed to get us yay far in, and now we can't get out because they keep baiting the hook. Bridget,
I'm not mad about it.
Is this place evil? Is this show evil?
I don't know. I don't know, Dave. Or is it just in dark mode? I don't know.
That's why it appeals to you. It's like, but I'm dark mode light. So what am I, gray? Bridget Mason Gray?
Oh, weird.
Whoa, Bridget.
Whoa.
Bridget, whoa.
Blew my mind.
Whoa.
See, people are going to make fun of me. I'm not God. I'm not God. I'm not saying I'm God. I'm not.
I didn't say that. But then again, we can look at things two ways, Bridget.
I'm just saying, I like spooky stuff. And sometimes I wear spooky things.
Would it be weird if I just called you Ginger Jesus?
Please don't.
That would be
blasphemous.
Was it heresy? What is it? Blasphemy. Thank you. Not for me. It's funny.
Yeah. You're still waiting on your Messiah.
Keep waiting. It's like the stuck place. The Messiah is our stuck place in Judaism. Until Mashiach comes.
Anyway. That's horrible.
So, I just wanted to mention one more thing. I think, listen, you could talk about Randall. I don't care about it really. There's not much movement there.
There's not.
We'll get more of that in the next episode.
Oh, we're going to get a lot of that. Yeah.
I did find it interesting that he happens to be whittling away one of the terrifying monster heads in this block of wood that he was whittling away all these episodes.
Well, like I said,
okay, interesting.
He objectively knows the most about them.
Even though it's not much at all.
No.
Just knows their movements.
Yep.
On the note of structure, they're getting Boyd to not only be distracted about capturing one of them, they're getting him to lose the thing that made him so important in this place. I mentioned that that's why he gets mad at Officer Acosta, because she does have a good answer. It's just that, that's kind of like a kick in the teeth. You're not doing your job, Officer Boyd. This is like his mind and it's subconscious. But then, because we mentioned religion a lot in this episode, but the one avatar for religion on this show was Father Khatri.
Mm-hmm. He's been missing.
Well, Father Fatri, the fake Father Khatri, has been missing.
Yeah.
This place is slowly starting to whittle away the pillars that remain, while absolutely removing the two pillars that I think made this place bearable, which was Father Khatri at first.
And Tien Chen.
Religion being the opiate of the masses, according to some people. Communist people. But also Tien Chen, who was a comfort to those weary folks.
Because what else is a comfort, Dave, but town. Food.
And a mom figure, right? When you're away from the mom that you love.
Yeah.
I just wanted to mention that because there's a lot going on here. I don't know why this episode made me think of Father Khatri as the human version also, because he gave people comfort. It wasn't structure, but it was some sort of feeling like there is some sort of order in the chaos, in the suffering, that we can hold on to something, that we can cling on to some sort of life raft. And why does this place want to just go, here's your life raft? Nope, I take it away. Here's your life preserver? Nope, take it away. Okay, so when I saw Donna's face, and Boyd does stop when he sees Donna, because they just took off Elizabeth Saunders' real-life husband from the show. Real-life
husband.
I don't think we mentioned it on this show that they're a married couple, if I'm not mistaken. So,
no, we haven't talked about it.
Yeah, Dale is played by Cliff Saunders, who is married to Elizabeth Saunders, who is Donna, by the way.
They're both fantastic actors, and Dale made me want to punch him in the face so hard.
Which is why he's so good.
He's so smug. Even to his last moment, he's just smug because he's like, "You can thank me later." It's like you can thank me later.
Did he not have this like New England quality to him too? By the way, the kind of New England sort of attitude and manner of speech.
Something about him.
Anyway, and before we go, I would be remiss. Rachel would have a field day with us if we did not mention how cool Dale looked.
Dude, that was
merged
awesome.
into the wall of that pool. He looked like Han Solo trapped in carbonite, by the way.
He did. Yeah, he did.
It's like a more realistic portrayal of that too, because more blood. Where's Greg Nicotero when we need him?
He was at New York Comic Con.
Was he? Yes, it was.
He was somewhere.
Which we unfortunately didn't cover because nobody was around to do it. And that's okay because it was late enough for people to be able to attend. So I feel a little less bad about that. But down to this one detail, which I absolutely loved for some reason from this little tickly horror thing, you could see like his mouth was partially merged with the pool, but like the part that was outside, you could see like the edge of his teeth. And I thought that was so wildly cool. Mm-hmm. Unlike anything I've ever seen before. Because it was gross, there was a CGI element to it.
There was. Oh, yeah.
So gross.
But it was good.
It made you feel really like this could be you. Even me looking at this, like, what if that was me? I don't know what it's about.
It's horrifying.
It makes you feel like if you do it right, you can convince people that could happen to you. And so imagine what these people are feeling. Oh, that could have been me if I went to that tree.
Yeah, because we were all just talking trash about how we should have just gone to the tree.
Yep. And Dale's like, he can thank me later. Well, and so maybe in a weird,
famous last
ironic
words.
way, because maybe they are thanking him for showing them what happens when you do that.
To some degree, yeah. Anyway, that happened in the pool. And I just want to talk about the fact that I didn't notice at any point. I knew that the pool was there and that it was by itself. And I thought that was a little bit weird. And I'd seen the motel sign, but never at any point did I go, where is the motel?
Where's the motel?
It's like such an obvious question. It made me feel like such a dummy. I lacked the perspective.
Yeah, you take this place for granted. And to illustrate a huge point, even the most skeptical of us, by the way, those people probably wouldn't watch this show.
You're right.
People worse than Sharondy. I mean, not to say that Sharondy's bad. She brings a perspective that is valuable when it comes to, I don't buy it. I don't buy this. I don't buy that.
Yeah, she does.
You'll see what I mean with the last episode of Daryl Dixon. But what I'm saying is, it's just obvious. The worst of us do accept a certain amount of
suspension of disbelief.
Yeah. You literally have to suspend some disbelief for every single show that you are watching because it's all fiction. Even if it's based on a true story, you have to speed roll or cut through a ton of fluff. People, you are not paying, or you're literally not paying money in some cases, to watch people go to the bathroom. They do go to the bathroom. You just have to suspend your disbelief that they never do. True. No, but I want to see the body. I want to see the bathroom. No, you don't. That's not part of the story. That's not what makes the story so good. So when they pointed out the motel, it's like, oh, we all fall prey to this. We all have to suspend a little belief to enjoy the story. That was my takeaway from this, by the way, is that we're missing something. Mm-hmm. We're always missing something, especially with this show. It's
I could see how that would drive people crazy. I enjoy it. I think it's fun.
Oh, yeah. Well, see, that's the thing. It's going to attract some people over others, this show. Mm-hmm. And then subsequently never let you leave.
I'm okay.
And I'm starting to have more conversations with Kira, by the way. And she's like way crazier than me.
With her theories?
Yeah.
Oh, people have lost their minds. The theories I see, sometimes I'm like, that doesn't make any sense. Where are you getting that? I know, because there's all sorts of theories about Elgin being
Fatima's and Ellis's kid.
I cannot get behind it. I'm like, that's not true.
Make me a believer. That's all I ask. Find a way to make it make sense.
Because it doesn't make any sense
because this place is crazy.
But people's like natural instinct is to try to fill in the pattern
so that you can understand this.
But I'm just along for the ride. It's so weird.
Well, because it goes to what Henry was saying to Tabitha about what Miranda was saying, is that this place made it so that we could turn to each other rather than try to figure out how to leave.
Yeah, I'm like, this is fine.
This is when Tien-Jen died.
I'm okay with just riding along for whatever craziness is going to happen. I'm excited to see what happens. I don't know. It's weird. I'm rooting for the characters, but I'm not like, I've got to solve this. I've got to be the biggest brain. My brain has to have the most wrinkles, and I have to solve this faster than anyone else. I don't care. I care. I want it to be answered.
I think that's not enough, Bridget, though. I think you're right. Sometimes being along for the ride makes it so that you can actually enjoy what you're watching. Mm-hmm. But I think the driving force behind the series is the instinct to try to make sense of things. You cannot help but try. And so these two things can be true
It's
at the same time.
But people have just gone too far off the rails.
Agreed. And you know what else? This series has challenged me as a podcaster because podcast brain is something I'm well aware of. I'm very self-aware as a podcaster because the thing is, I want to enjoy the thing that I'm watching. Also, not just analyze it and pick it apart. So thanks to you for reminding me of that, especially with the series, it's very difficult. If I can turn that brain off on first watch, at least, then be conscious of that through my second watch while taking notes, I'm less prone to giving out wild theories, basically.
I don't know if there's other people out there. So like, if you are a person like this, please comment on the YouTube version of this, or I don't know, leave a review on Spotify or rate this podcast or Apple. But am I the only one that's like, no, these are too wild of theories? Like sometimes I feel like it just goes so out of pocket that I don't even want to hear it. Cause I'm like, I just want the show to tell me. That's not like super like me either. You know, I always joke about how like I write this show. I already solved all of this, but this show allows me to kind of take a step back and not know everything before everybody else. And I like that.
I'm the exact opposite. I'm going back to what I said earlier. I feel like I'm usually the more grounded one of us. On any other show, I'll accept everything you have to say and be like, well, this is the one I think I'm going with. And sometimes you'll say something and, oh, that will add to that. And that's great. I think that's great. And this could also be true. But here I'm like, well, let's take hook shots like Philip Seymour Hoffman in, what was that movie?
You're like the guy from Ancient Aliens while we're covering the show.
Well, no, if Charity's like that.
You have hair up to the ceiling and you're like,
I wish. Yep.
It's aliens.
But it's opposite day. So it's like me being that guy I don't have hair. And I have, my ego actually goes up to the ceiling. Which is ironic because there's nothing behind it. I have nothing to go on.
False confidence is the best confidence, in my opinion. It's the only kind I have.
You've met those guys. No way.
I am those guys. No. What do you mean? It's all I've got, Dave.
It's all I've got. But you don't want to be with those guys. I want to be the guy.
I am the guy.
That's why we're so good together.
I know. I was talking about it yesterday.
There can only be one.
I
Bridget.
have pick me like energy. It's awful. It's just who I am.
Wow. It's true.
It is true.
But it works this time.
I just want to be one of the guys.
Let's continue Bridget's thought of saying, if you have anything to say about this at all, first of all, leave a comment on our YouTube video. Like this video. It really helps with visibility. Even disliking this video helps with visibility, by the way. But if you really like what you've heard and you want to go a little bit out of your way to communicate with us, head over to ratethispodcast.com/squawkingdead. 5 stars in a swimming pool is all we need to know that you love us.
Oh,
because I think there's a swimming pool emoji. Tell us what you like. Tell us what you didn't like. Tell us what we definitely missed. But remember to tell us after every single episode. It really, really helps. And if you really like what we've been doing, at the very least, head on over to Ko-fi and Patreon and follow us for free so that you can join us in these recordings to give us your thoughts in real time that will make the episode most likely and add to the richness that is these episodes on not just From, but The Walking Dead, Daryl Dixon, Fallout, House of the Dragon, The Boys, The Last of Us when it comes back, Dead City, all that stuff. Make these episodes yours, actually. Be the we and we are Squawking Dead, but take it a little further. You can tip us and get these episodes unedited for your approval, along with my notes, which are copious, at least as far as this episode is concerned. You will get Discord access when you do tip us, not as much as when you join a membership tier on either ko-fi.com/squawkingdead or patreon.com/squawkingdead. When you do, you'll get more Discord access, forever Discord access. You'll have access to the unedited episode recordings in perpetuity, discounts in the Ko-fi shop at the very least. If you happen to join the Whisperers Grade M or Survivors tier, you'll get a free classic t-shirt. But no! Until the end of the month, your free classic t-shirt will be upgraded to a free hoodie to get you a little bit more on board. So make sure you join those membership tiers before the end of the month. If you happened to join the Survivors or Grade M tier, you can appear alongside us. It's one of the defining perks. As we break down each of these episodes, we want to hear from you with your face, head, mouth. And if you decide to take the giant leap and join the Grade M tier, our producer tier, you'll have access to our core channel on our Discord server where we have more private conversations on development that we aren't willing to share with other people because they're not like still dough, you know? We need to bake that dough into a monster, baby. basically. So that being said, I've been your host, David Cameo, and I was joined by Bridget. ko-fi.com/punkybrewster. That's PONKYBRUOSETER. Catch her series, her live streams covering Found on NBC. It's called Finding Found on her channel. That's youtube.com/punkybrewster. That's PONKYBRUOSETER for flair. You gotta say it. Subscribe to her channel and enable all notifications so that you know when she goes live to talk about that series and a whole lot of other cool things that you should probably backtrack on because her videos are a lot shorter than these.
They are.
Talking about the webisodes from The Walking Dead. Those were pretty fun.
Yeah, Zombification Education, which I did with Aiden, which is about the original zombie movie. We even started a live stream panel show. That was pretty cool that we have yet to go back and do because I absolutely cannot finish that series. It's god awful.
But
The
say it out loud.
Gifted. It's so bad.
It's hard.
It's
so
a
hard one.
Bad. It's so bad. We covered Zomboat, and that was a fun one because it was a short-lived series that was canceled, and it was great. And the live stream that we did, I thought was fun and kind of lighthearted.
And it was short enough to be digestible.
Yeah. And then I've done a lot of things about the Clementine comic books, despite me not wanting to, because they're not good.
Which is what makes them so entertaining, by the way.
I have many other plans, actually. There's been puzzles on Skybound's website through Skybound Insiders, Walking Dead puzzles, and they have been phenomenal. And I took screenshots and saved information so that I could give it to people in a digestible format, and I never did anything with it because that's just who I am now.
Actually, I think I blame myself. And also, you attended your friend's, well, not many people know Akila, but she is your con partner. Mm-hmm. Also your partner in work and also partner in life.
Yes.
She just got married this weekend.
Yeah.
And the flourish is we've been making each other crazy because we've been covering 2 episodes a week, which is why we need your memberships ASAP, because we need that financial certainty that we can provide to you, the show. Mm-hmm. Not that you deserve, but that we want to give you. It's like you want it, we want it, but we need the wherewithal and the funds to be able to do it. We're prepared to do that. We're working towards this goal of giving you more content, this content that you love. And we're only going to be able to get it to you if we can get the brave few, the pillars of this podcast, to be able to impart their well-earned money towards this cause. So thank you in advance. And take advantage of that offer before the end of the month. The free hoodie, the promo pack of stickers, buttons, pins that we have prepared for you. As, by the way, including an acrylic pin showing your membership tier. I should mention that. That's great, because I think that's a pretty cool pin, if I may say so myself. So take care, everybody. We'll see you very soon. And hopefully where the rock is rolling down the hill in this season of From, and we may end up getting distracted from the things that they mentioned that they may never come back to. I'm sure there are things from season 1 and season 2 that we didn't go back to.
I'm sure.
We're not going to mention them now. But like Bridget said, I'm along for the ride.
Yeah.
I will still watch that moon, and I'm like a voyeur watching it put on pants.
I'm glad I can play the
Gross.
straight man for you in this. It's a
Which is
weird
weird.
shift in dynamic.
This whole thing is opposite and upside down. And I'm fine with it. Remember when I was a guest on our Walking Dead Daryl Dixon just because of this? Rachel was the host, which is also very weird because we have big personalities, Bridget. Way bigger than Rachel. Wait a minute, hold on a second. If you're dark mode and Rachel's pink mode, what the hell am I?
You're like dark
Vanilla
mode light. You're like even lighter than me.
Oh yeah?
Because that emo was still in there, Dave.
I'm thinking I'm like the acquired taste. You know, like there's the chocolate covered popsicle things, like Magnum bars, right? But it has like pistachios on the outside. I think that's me. Like not everybody likes pistachios. Not everybody likes nuts in their ice cream.
Fools don't like pistachios because they're delicious.
Oh, I'll take that.
That wasn't directed as a compliment to you. I meant like I like pistachios.
No, that's where the episode will end. It's a good thing I'm editing this episode. Thank you so much for listening to the end of this episode, discussing From's 5th episode of its 3rd season titled The Light of Day. I really, really do hope that you are enjoying our discussions on From. It's one of those things that we took a chance on, and I really do think it's paying dividends in terms of our enjoyment, first of all, and second, adds a little bit of a dimension. If you had listened to the top of the podcast, what we have been including is the unedited episode discussion prior, usually, to our main discussion. It's a little teaser of what we end up talking about before, during, and after our recording sessions, which I was trying to emphasize earlier, are free to attend for those folks who follow on Ko-fi and Patreon. The only difference is that we don't post our recording schedules on social media. It's only available on Ko-fi and Patreon. Whether you're able to make it there and listen to these privileged discussions in real time or catch them afterwards in the unedited episode recording, I think they're a worthy conversation to behold. And it's something that I wish we could include in every episode, but we can't go back to the old days where our live streams, which is what we were doing prior to this, would take about 2 hours and a half, sometimes 3 hours, and then editing it down for the audio-only podcast does end up making it roughly about this time frame, an hour and a half, 2 hours, or something to that effect. But we realize that as much as we love going off track, and you love us going off track, we have to consider the wider audience. To that end, you've reached the point of this podcast where we acknowledge our Great M survivors and Whispers tier members who receive credits at the end of every episode. On the video podcast, it shows up on the screen. Here, we just say it out loud. Starting with the Great M tier, the producer tier, we have at Real Ryan GM on Instagram and X. Moving on to the Survivors tier, we have Douglas Atherton at Walking Dead Artist 2, the number 2, on Instagram. And of course, our Whispers tier members, starting with at Judith.Morton on Instagram, at ElizaJones71 on Instagram. On Facebook, we have the wonderful at Sandy.D.Morrison, at Kim Rowley, the number 1. There's also Fanart Lindy, who you can reach on Ko-fi at ko-fi.com/fanartlindy, and Aiden Atkin, who you can also find on Ko-fi, which is ko-fi.com/AidenAtkin. And I really do hope that you guys also take advantage of the end of the month membership sign-on bonuses that we have. It's kind of important because more than just the perks that you receive initially and also throughout your membership, we want to be able to give you the podcast that we have been itching to give you for a while, but realize that it's impossible without your help. I wish that we could talk about the Walking Dead universe and only the Walking Dead universe, but like we said at the top, and we've been having these conversations in our Discord, there is a finite amount. When TWD spin-offs are in the ether, they come in such small quantities, 6 episodes at a time. There has to be something to fill the space in between the gaps. And also, there is so much great content to be had, and that deserves our analysis. And you know what? If we're missing out on a series that you enjoy and you love, we want to hear about it. But the truth of the matter is we will not be able to cover it if we don't have more members. Now, I know what you're thinking. We should be getting more advertising, market ourselves in order to be able to promote certain products and services. The problem is, A, we need to expand our audience, and B, we need legendary members like you to drive this podcast, because most of the revenue is going to be coming from fans like you. If you think about it, how many people do you know take advantage of a product that is placed in a podcast? It's even smaller than trying to reach out to people on social media and get feedback, which is typically 1% to 2%. Ads or people buying products or product placements from podcasts, it's a fraction of you in that percent. It's a hard life doing this, if I'm being honest with you people at the end of this episode, if you're even still listening. And if you are, let me know that you are, because it really helps to know that you guys are out there hearing what we're saying and feeling what we're feeling. And it's okay if you can't commit to anything, but more than anything else, we want to know that you're there, that you're listening. It makes us feel that we're doing something, not just for you, but for the universe. To that end, and in the meantime, remember that we are Squawking Dead.